G7 summit comes to a close in Germany, the issue of climate change has finally made it onto the agenda. At the summit, here's the CBC's Susan Lone.
The discussion was 35 minutes long, and it was led by France, which is hosting a major UN conference this December, where countries will commit to new targets for 2030. Canada has recently announced its commitment to cut greenhouse gas emissions by 30% below 2005 levels by 2030. But Canada is struggling to meet its current target for 2020, and environmental groups are skeptical Canada can meet its new one for a decade later. Even in this session, Ukraine overshadowed the talks. A readout from the Prime Minister's office says that Stephen Harper remains concerned with short-term energy security in Ukraine. The leaders then cut short their talks on climate change to return to threats to international security. That included talks about ISIS in Iraq and Syria. Susan Lund, CBC News, Garmisch-Partenkirchen, Germany.
The three main political parties in Ottawa are preparing for tomorrow's release of the Auditor General's report on Senate expense claims. It looks like as many as 30 senators will be flagged for inappropriate spending, with 9 to be referred to the RCMP. Here's the CBC's Louise Elliott.
This report is expected to contain explosive revelations. 3 of the most powerful people in the Senate are going to be named for inappropriate spending. Conservative Speaker Leo Vassakos, government leader Claude Carignan, and opposition leader James Cowan. But that's just the beginning. Some of the highest spenders whose files will go to the RCMP include the government's law and order point man, Pierre Hughes-Boisvenu, and Liberal Colin Kenny. Prime Minister Stephen Harper, who's attending the G7 in Germany today, tried to distance himself from the scandal by placing the blame squarely on the Senate. But back in Ottawa, CBC News has learned that Harper's office is hard at work helping draft the Senate response.
That's the CBC's Louise Elliott in Ottawa. He admits to having multiple wives and has long fought Canada's laws against polygamy. Winston Blackmore is the leader of Bountiful, a settlement in eastern BC along the U.S. border, and today he's back in court. The CBC's Bob Keating reports.
Winston Blackmore does not shy away from the fact he has 24 wives and scores of children at his rural BC home known as Bountiful. Blackmore is the leader of a breakaway fundamentalist Mormon sect. He says his lifestyle is protected under the Charter of Rights and Freedom. The province has charged him with polygamy once already in 2009, but those charges were tossed from court because it was ruled BC shopped around for a prosecutor to take the case, suggesting a bias. Today, Blackmore's lawyer, Bill Harvey, is expected to make much the same argument in a judicial review. Harvey will challenge the validity of the special prosecutor who's taken the case this time around, hoping to have it tossed out before it ever reaches court. Bob Keating, CP News, Nelson, British Columbia.
Roadblocks have been set up and bloodhounds and helicopters are being used in the search for 2 convicted murderers who escaped over the weekend from a maximum security prison in Upper New York State. The prison is just 30 kilometers south of the Canadian border. Richard Matt and David Sweat used power tools to cut their way out of their cell, and from there they worked their way through the interior of the prison and out the sewer system. A $100,000 reward has been posted for information leading to their capture. And that is CBC News. Remember, you can download your CBC